So Marina Mabrey has responded to the to everything that's going on.
Marina Mabrey just looked like she was just unhinged out there after looking at
what was supposed to be a competitive matchup between the Connecticut Sun and Indiana Fever turned into a full-blown spectacle. 6 technical fouls, 3 ejections, and 2 flagrant fouls later. Fans weren't just talking about the score. They were talking about one explosive moment that hijacked the night: Marina Mabrey blindsiding Caitlin Clark with a shove that sent her crashing to the floor. It wasn't part of the play. It wasn't subtle. And somehow, it wasn't enough to get Mabrey tossed. Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham was ejected without hesitation for a far less egregious foul. Fans exploded online, accusing officials of applying a glaring double standard that's becoming impossible to ignore.
Are here the night after WNBA fight night. Sophie Cunningham putting JC Sheldon in a clinch. Marina Mabrey targeting Caitlin Clark.
And if you were already fired up watching that live, Mabrey's reaction after the game probably lit an even bigger fire. Instead of remorse or explanation, her attitude sparked even more anger. The question now isn't just whether the refs got it wrong, it's whether the league needs to step in and lay down a harsher penalty. Should Marina Mabrey face suspension for what many are calling a cheap shot? That's the debate raging across social media right now, and fans everywhere are demanding accountability.
Oh, and Marina Mabrey's going to get ejected. If the officials saw that, Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected.
Well, they're going to go and look at it.
All they had to do was just eject her. All they had to do was eject her and none of this happens. If the referees had ejected Marina Mabrey, nothing else happens. The Sophie Cunningham situation.
After the dust settled, the WNBA made a quiet, behind-the-scenes move. They officially upgraded Mabrey's foul to a flagrant 2. No big press release, no high-profile announcement, just a quiet update buried in the league's website. And that move has sparked a whole new round of questions. Why didn't the refs catch it in real time? Why did it take a tidal wave of outrage for the league to react? And now that it's officially labeled as excessive and unnecessary, will Mabrey finally face a suspension like broadcasters openly called for during the game?
So, there are 4 players fined in that game. 4 players fined in that game, but the referees, the scariest part about all this, is that the referees came out with their report. They came out with their report and said, the contact made by Mabrey did not rise to the level of ejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant 2 penalty. And it was given as a technical foul, not even a flagrant, by the way.
We're about to break down the full sequence, how the WNBA overruled its own officiating crew and whether this post-game adjustment actually helped restore order or made the controversy even worse. But first, let's go back to the moment that ignited this firestorm and sent shockwaves through the league: Mabrey's blindside shove that blindsided everyone, especially Caitlin Clark.
A lot of it is centered around the last 46 seconds where Sophie Cunningham hard fouls JC Sheldon. She gets ejected, JC gets ejected, does Lindsay? I think Lindsay gets ejected. And in watching the broadcast, even the broadcasters at the time mentioned if they would have just ejected Marina Mabrey, this probably wouldn't have happened.
Let's not sugarcoat it, this was a full-speed, blindsided attack. Caitlin Clark had her head turned, completely focused on the play, when Mabrey charged in and launched her to the floor. It wasn't a standard hard foul, it looked personal. The arena gasped, commentators were stunned, and most people watching assumed they were about to see an immediate flagrant 2 and ejection. But no. Mabrey was slapped with a basic technical foul and allowed to continue. The game went on like nothing happened, but the crowd didn't forget, and neither did social media. Outrage exploded instantly.
So Caitlin Clark gets poked in the eye. Marina Mabrey doesn't even see what happens, and she just decides to clean Caitlin Clark out of it. And the referees just said, nah, it was not worth an injection. So Caitlin dribbles. Look at how far she is away from the ball, by the way. Look at how far she is away from the ball. That's literally, she's nowhere near the ball. She just jumps at her face. And then she belly bumps Caitlin. Caitlin retaliates by shoving in an unsportsmanlike manner, according to the referees. And then Marina Mabrey comes from nowhere.
Within minutes, clips of the incident flooded every platform. Social media went wild. Fans asked the same question on repeat: how is Mabrey still in the game? How did the refs miss something so obvious? And this outrage wasn't just coming from Clark supporters. Neutral fans, former players, and analysts all agreed the officiating crew completely lost control. The frustration only deepened when you compared it to other calls made that night. Sophie Cunningham, for example, was thrown out for a physical play that wasn't even in the same category as Mabrey's hit.
At this angle, you can see just how far JC Sheldon is away from the ball. The ball's here. She's hitting Caitlin Clark in the face here. If you guys are looking at my cursor. I'm sorry I can't make this bigger. My cursor. She hits Caitlin Clark here. The ball's here. The ball is 3 feet away from Caitlin Clark's face. And she just targets the face. She targets the face. Like, I don't know if there's any other way to describe it. Like, this is clearly... She just lunged at her face. She went nowhere near the ball. She lunges forward. She absolutely, positively, zero doubts about it, lunges at Caitlin Clark's face.
The inconsistencies were so blatant they couldn't be ignored. Cunningham got ejected immediately, no questions asked. Meanwhile, Mabrey stayed in the game after delivering what looked like the most dangerous play of the night. The whole thing exposed the WNBA's struggle with consistent rule enforcement, and fans weren't having it. They were calling it what it felt like, a double standard that threatens the league's credibility.
I don't see how you can say that any other way. She literally lunged at her face, and then Caitlin's there walking away, and she belly bumps her. Like, by the way, Caitlin with the shove. Caitlin does not move JC Sheldon. If you look at this angle, you can see Caitlin Clark does not move JC Sheldon. They're like, Caitlin shoved Sheldon. Caitlin literally, JC Sheldon's still moving forward. So JC Sheldon is the one who initiates the contact and then chaser, and Marina Mabrey comes from now.
Online critics weren't subtle either. Memes, tweets, and videos mocked the officiating, with fans sarcastically asking if refs were spinning a wheel before each whistle. Because under any clear standard, Mabrey should have been ejected instantly. But the controversy didn't end when the final buzzer sounded. That's when the WNBA's slow, quiet damage control began, and it wasn't enough to put out the fire.
Marina Mabrey's technical from last night's Fever Sun game has been upgraded to a flagrant 2. Oh man, the league told ESPN a flagrant 2 comes from a standard fine. Additionally, Sophie Cunningham was fined separately for her hard foul with 46 seconds to...
Eventually, the league came forward and reclassified Mabrey's foul as a flagrant 2. In plain English, that was their way of admitting the refs completely blew the call. If they had gotten it right in real time, Mabrey would have been out. No debate. Fans saw the reclassification as too little, too late proof that the officiating not only failed, but failed in a way that changed the entire energy of the game. And people weren't just mad, they were calling out the hypocrisy. Sophie Cunningham's play was still under scrutiny, while Mabrey's far worse foul got retroactively addressed. The WNBA said Mabrey's shove met the definition of excessive and unnecessary force. So why didn't the officials, who had front row seats, see it the same way?
People are calling for Sophie Cunningham's ejection from the league. People are commenting under Marina Mabrey stuff.
And here's the real kicker, this wasn't just about one bad call. It was about a pattern. Caitlin Clark was hit with a technical earlier in the game just for reacting after being clawed in the face. Cunningham got fined for a play that looked mild in comparison. Yet Mabrey, who clearly crossed the line, stayed in the game and avoided immediate consequences. If she had been ejected when she should have, the entire tone of the game could have changed. Instead, the league scrambled to fix things after the fact, long after the damage was done.
It is kind of, frustrating to see the hypocrisy everywhere in all the spaces when it comes to the Indiana Fever, because I'm seeing the same people saying, and the same people in the media, the same people in social media, which social media doesn't really count and it shouldn't, but these are filtering to people in the mainstream media saying it was a physical league last season to Sophie should be ejected and her spot should be considered in the league, and calling her out on all these physical plays that were totally excusable until the Indiana Fever.
Now fans and players are asking the most important question of all: how can anyone trust the game when the rules seem to shift moment by moment? There's a growing disconnect between what's called on the floor and what the league corrects afterward. That gap is growing into a credibility crisis. One that puts the spotlight squarely on the officials and the league itself. And leading that conversation is referee Ashley Gloss. After the game, she explained that Mabrey's shove didn't reach the threshold for a flagrant 2 in her judgment. That's why Mabrey was given only a technical and allowed to keep playing. Gloss stood by her decision. But that only made one thing clearer: the WNBA now faces an identity crisis in its officiating, and fans are demanding change.
There's no way y'all coming after the game and then now you're saying, oh, it should have been a flagrant 2. Oh, we should have. Look, you're catching the smoke and now you want to change it. You need to do it during the game. All right, during the game, go ahead and call it the way it is, man. Stop with the...
Less than a day after the controversial game, the WNBA quietly reversed its on-court decision, upgrading Marina Mabrey's foul to a flagrant 2. It wasn't just a correction, it was a direct contradiction of their own officiating team. That sudden flip sent shockwaves through the basketball community. How does a shove that wasn't deemed worthy of an ejection suddenly become violent enough to warrant one just hours later? The league issued a brief statement confirming the change, but the internet didn't let it slide. Social media erupted with clips, commentary, and captions like, "What were the refs even watching?" Analysts and fans scrambled to make sense of it all, but one unsettling thought kept surfacing: was this a genuine correction, or just the league bowing to the pressure of public backlash?
Contact made by Mabrey did not rise to the level of an ejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant foul penalty 2.
Even before the Mabrey controversy, the game was already spiraling, a powder keg of chaos that included 6 technicals, 3 ejections, and a tidal wave of physical play. But what really stood out was Caitlin Clark being slapped with a technical for reacting instinctively after taking a poke to the eye and bump from J.C. Sheldon. Fans were floored. How does that reaction merit attack, while Mabrey's full-blown shove initially didn't even draw an ejection?
So this just clearly shows me the referees need some schooling, man. Okay? They need some schooling. You had these referees out here clueless, man. And I was wondering what was taking them so long to call the right call. I swear to you, man, we lived 2 lifetimes before they came back and said what they needed to say about the nonsense that...
Now consider Sophie Cunningham. She was immediately ejected for a hard foul, one that was timed, legal by many standards, and later confirmed with a fine. Contrast that with Mabrey's hit, which was far more violent yet downgraded during the game, only to be escalated later behind closed doors. The comparison raised eyebrows, not just for the disparity in punishment, but for how selectively the rules were being enforced.
The question was, why did Caitlin Clark get a technical foul? She ended up coming back and saying, after the foul by Sheldon, Clark reacted in an unsportsmanlike manner towards Sheldon. Huh?
This kind of inconsistency is exactly what fans, coaches, and players are fed up with. How does one athlete get tossed for a hard play while another remains in the game after a reckless and dangerous act? The gap in enforcement from one player to the next, especially within the same game, isn't just frustrating, it's a credibility crisis. People are starting to question who's truly in charge, the refs or the league office reacting after the fact.
Now the flagrant with Sophie, I'm still questioning that. I'm still questioning because it looked like a take foul, fam. And don't tell me y'all never seen somebody grab LeBron James, like hold him like both of his arms, try to hold him down. He fights through it, still makes the bucket. Don't tell me y'all never seen it.
It raises deeper questions. What kind of pressure are officials under when making snap decisions in front of packed arenas and hundreds of thousands watching live? Referee Ashley Gloss defended her choice, claiming Mabrey's shove didn't meet the threshold for a flagrant 2. But on replay, it was textbook excessive, blindsided, and clearly dangerous. The stakes were already sky-high: Commissioner's Cup implications, Caitlin Clark's rising stardom, and a game filled with emotion. But none of that should excuse poor officiating. Accountability isn't a buzzword, it's the foundation of any fair sport.
Today, as long as bad referees are allowed to do whatever the hell they want to do, as long as bad referees can get away with every single thing they want, and can get away with stuff like this, nothing will ever change.
And at the heart of all this chaos? Trust. When calls made in the heat of the moment are reversed only after mass outrage, fans and players alike are left wondering what rules actually apply. If standards only shift after timelines explode and hashtags trend, the integrity of the game crumbles. Caitlin Clark got a technical for a natural reaction. Sophie Cunningham was fined and ejected instantly. Meanwhile, Mabrey's dangerous act was addressed hours later. That's not discipline. That's damage control, and it sets a dangerous precedent.
It's good that the refs did something about it, but they should have did something about it way earlier. They could have prevented all of this. They could have prevented every bit of this, but they chose not to.
Then there's Mabrey herself. Did she apologize? Backtrack? Not at all. She doubled down on her post-game TikTok, which quickly went viral. Smirking into the camera, she joked, "Every time they comment, I make dollars." It wasn't remorse, it was branding. It was controversy turned into currency. Some saw it as bold. Others saw it as reckless. But no one could deny it worked. It amplified her visibility and made her the face of the moment. In today's age of influencer athletes, that kind of confidence, however polarizing, grabs attention and drives engagement.
But Marina Mabrey commented on TikTok about the whole situation, and this is what she said. "Every time they comment, I make dollars."
And make no mistake, this wasn't some isolated act. Mabrey's reputation for overly aggressive play has been building for years. She's known for physical defense that often flirts with the line and sometimes barrels right through it. Fans in opposing arenas now boo every time she touches the ball. And yes, Sophie Cunningham sparks controversy too. But this isn't just about individual players anymore, it's a rebellion against inconsistent officiating. Every time Mabrey or JC Sheldon steps near Clark, the tension spikes. Refs are under the spotlight every trip down the floor, and either they call it right in real time, or they risk losing total control.
Like, if you guys don't know about Sophie Cunningham and Marina Mabrey, who these two people are, like, you need to just know the lore. Like, Marina Mabrey, this is how like, Dejanay calls Marina Mabrey her evil twin.
This brings us to a more urgent dilemma. When a generational talent like Caitlin Clark and her teammates like Sophie Cunningham face reckless contact mid-game, but the league only reacts after viral clips spread, what message is the WNBA sending? Is it that high-profile players can be targeted, so long as the league cleans it up later? If so, the league isn't just failing to protect stars, it's failing to protect its own reputation.
Marina Mabrey is a crash out artist. Like, there's literally this page, if you guys haven't seen, called Women Who... And 90% of what they do...
The league needs to draw the line, both literally and figuratively. If officials miss something, then video review should have the authority to intervene and enforce penalties immediately, not hours later. If the league can upgrade calls post-game, they should be empowered to escalate enforcement mid-game. That's how you ensure fairness, safety, and maintain the legitimacy of both the officiating crew and the product on the floor.
Marina Mabrey will find any excuse to knock someone on the ground or, like, go at somebody. We saw that when she was with the Sky. We'll see that with the Sun. We've seen that when she was with the Wings. Like, that's Marina Mabrey. That is Marina Mabrey.
Flagrant 2, which honestly, she should have just been ejected from the game. This is what happened last season with Kennedy Carter. When her cheap shot on Caitlin wasn't addressed in the moment, I think they're trying to address that now. So the Flagrant 2 has been issued. Sophie Cunningham has been issued another fine on top of her Flagrant 2. But is it too little too...
This entire situation mirrors circuit breaker rules in other sports. You step over the line, you're out immediately. Delay that enforcement, and the consequence loses meaning. But in this case, enforcement didn't just lag, it was contradictory, reactive, and confusing. So now fans, rookies, veterans, and even sponsors are left wondering, who or what is really protected by the rules? After all the drama, we still haven't gotten real clarity. Gloss stood by her original decision. The WNBA later contradicted her. Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham continue to absorb the backlash in real time. But where is the consistency from the league office? That's the real crisis. The WNBA needs clear standards, immediate accountability, and unified officiating, not tomorrow, but yesterday. Otherwise, we'll keep seeing more chaos, more after-the-fact apologies, and more headline-chasing decisions. And let's be honest, social media isn't a rulebook. It's a reaction. And eventually, even reactions burn out. The question now, will the WNBA fix this before the next national spotlight hits? Or will they once again chase the story after the buzzer?